What are the most common objections that we get from procurement during a digital adoption sales cycle? I think I have a love and hate affair with procurement. Obviously, I think it's important that you look at different solutions, different vendors, different options, do cost comparisons, and so on. But nowadays, it's more and more becoming a stupid tick off the box exercise. I've ran so many procurement processes and RFPs myself, and honestly, 90% have already been decided upfront. So it's much more because it's necessary, because you must do a procurement process, because you must do an RFP process, that these things get done. So that, from my perspective, if you're then on the seller side and need to go through this process, it's much more about how do you manage the process. So I think there's a couple of common objections that are coming into this cycle. Obviously, it's about cost, right? So procurement typically wants to make sure that they have a good price, that they get the right discounts, and that there is ROI for the company. So that is where I think from the beginning it's being transparent about what is it going to cost, in which timeline, and so on, as well as be able to show tangible ROI. And I think that is with digital adoption very easy. I would even go that far, but I know no company will ever take me on this. But I'm also be willing to contract with companies just based on the ROI. Pay me for the value that we get generated. And if we don't generate value, you don't have to pay me. But I'm 100% sure I'm going to make a shitload of money this way. Cost and ROI should not be an issue. It's just about being transparent. How does it scale, and so on. I think digital adoption, since it's still a relatively new market, one of the concerns of procurement is always what is the supplier, what is the stability of the supplier, and so on. So that is why most of the time we are working with MockMe as a digital adoption platform. This is no longer a startup. It's a 2 billion software company listed at the NASDAQ. So I think this is not like a small startup anymore that it was like when I started working in digital adoption, now almost 10 years ago. So it's really solid companies in the market now. So that should be fine as well. I think the third one is contract terms and duration. So for how long do you want to conclude a contract? What are the discounts if you have a multi-year contract, and so on? So there, being in this space for almost 10 years now, I've seen so many contracts. So there, I'm happy to work with you and see how you get the best contract in place with the best pricing. There's also quite some advantages actually on buying a digital adoption platform through a partner like ourselves, because we can be very creative with the terms and conditions. And there's a little trick that will actually help to save you money. For that, you need to send me a personal message, and I'm happy to jump on a call and discuss that with you. I think the other one is obviously vendor lock-in. So how do we make sure that as a company we have the flexibility to also go with other vendors? And here you simply have to look at it, right? If you are an enterprise customers, how many software applications do you have in place? Typically, if we start the digital adoption journey, we will do this on one application or two applications. But I'm sure that in your company, there is, if not tens, there might even be hundreds of different solutions in place. Why are we talking about vendor lock-in? If you're maybe not happy with the vendor that you're working with, try another vendor on another solution. It's as simple as that. And then once the contract ends, you can see how you transfer to the other vendor. It's not that complicated neither. And I think the last objection that sometimes comes in is the lack of a proof of concept. Personally, I like and I hate a proof of concept. I think calling it nowadays a proof of concept is total bullshit. The solutions are proven. They have been implemented in hundreds, if not thousands, of different companies, hundreds of different platforms. So the solutions are working technically. So that is what you typically do in a proof of concept. That is why at Digital Ventures, we don't call it a proof of concept anymore. We call it a proof of value. So we build a small use case for you on your application to show with one or two or three use cases what is the potential value that you can have. And I think that is much more valuable than trying to tick some technical boxes. Technically, we know these things work. It's much more how do you embed it, how are you creative with your use cases, and how do you drive really value out of it. So that is much more important than the technical aspects. So I think that are the typical objections that we get from procurement during a digital adoption sales cycle. If you want to learn more, if you have any other objections, just send me a personal message and I'm happy to chat with you and see how we can overcome them.